So what is it that leaders actually do? Well, the traditional idea around leadership is that leaders perform two different tasks. And this is where we can already see the confusion around the language that we use in terms of describing leadership. Because we talk about leadership, we talk about management, we talk about leaders, we talk about managers. What is the difference? So in front of you, you can see what that difference is. A leader is someone who engages with the skills of leadership and the skills of management. So what that means is that you need to find a balance, and that's illustrated by having these this diagram of a scale in front of you. So what a leader is essentially doing is looking to optimize the performance today. So in other words, make sure their organization is being successful today, but also looking to understand how the future is going to be different and ensure that their organization can adapt to change. So it's optimization and adaptation that drive the balance of leadership. And a successful leader is able to balance their organization in ensuring that they are able to have enough structure and stability to be successful today, but that they're also changing and flexible enough in order to be successful tomorrow. And unfortunately, one of the major challenges of the 21st century is that we've become far too focused on management. In other words, our organizations are overmanaged and underled. And as a result, they aren't flexible enough and they are unable to adapt to the changing environment around them. And that's why we face a crisis in so many organizations today. However, in order to be a 21st century leader, we have to recognize that the challenge we face are so great that we need to have radically different solutions if we are to overcome them. We're not going to be able to solve challenges around the population pressures, the need for improved inequality in our societies, the needs to address the huge challenges around climate change, and so on and so forth by simply doing the same old stuff over and over again. We need innovation, we need new ideas, we need new perspectives. In other words, we need the skills of entrepreneurship. And that doesn't just mean that we need entrepreneurs to create new companies and organizations. We need the entrepreneurial mindset. Now, what that means is that you can be working in a company or in an organization and be delivering innovative new solutions within that organization. So you don't have to be working on your own or for yourself in order to be entrepreneurial. It's more about having the right mindset and skills rather than the right job title. And so what we need to recognize is that the 21st century leader needs to combine three things. They need to combine the need for adjusting to change. They need to be able to ensure that they can grow performance in their organization. And they need to be able to create the innovative solutions that their organization will need to overcome the challenges that it faces. And so that's why at Adepicos, we've built the idea of the Leadapreneur. And what we believe that this does is unite those three skill sets under one common identity. And so what you can see is that the Leadapreneur is someone who can unite people to work together and cope with change. They're also someone who can ensure sustained high performance and organized complexity. And finally, they have the ability to create innovation and cope with the uncertain world that we live in today. In other words, a Leadapreneur combines the skill sets of leadership, management, and entrepreneurship to be a successful 21st century leader. And the key thing that this individual is doing, in other words, what the 21st century Leadapreneur needs to do, is balance the three needs of adapting, optimizing, and innovating. We need to recognize that sometimes organizations need to adapt, sometimes they need to optimize, and sometimes they need to innovate. And what the basic task of the 21st century leader is to find a way to enable their organization to dance to this rhythm of change. And at a basic concept, that's what Adepicos is here to do, to show you how to be able to do this dance of change. How you can create an organization that can adapt, that can optimize, and that can innovate in the way that it's needed for it to be successful in the accelerating, complex, and uncertain world of today. And so here you can see the learning journey that you'll be going on with Adepicos Online. First, you'll learn about purpose in order to understand how to effectively describe reality. Remember, that's step one of what leaders need to do, define what reality should look like. Secondly, you'll learn about the importance of bringing together passionate people and how to organize them into a team in order to be able to work together effectively. So that's just taking now to step two, how you start to build that successful organization. And then we look at planning in order to understand how we can use strategy to actually unfold our ideas and deliver them successfully into the world around us. And then when we look at performance, plot, and power, those are ideas that revolve around the third step of leadership, ensuring that the organization can adapt to change and can survive and thrive in the modern day environment. And so when you completed your learning journey, it's going to look a little bit like this. These are the steps that you will be taking in the 21st century leadership journey that is Adepicos Online. And what's important to recognize is that This is going to be a journey that really will stretch you and test you in terms of how you think about leadership and how you think about yourself. So you're going to encounter some challenging concepts, but I also believe that they're going to find them interesting and accessible, and above all, very rewarding to learn about. At the end of every learning step, you'll see this slide, and it's a really useful tool for you to be able to capture what your thoughts are at that moment and use it as a tool to drive your learning. So what I would really recommend is that you have a little notebook with you to jot down your ideas as you're listening to the learning modules. And by doing that, you can capture key ideas and key insights that you have, those crucial aha moments where you suddenly realize something about yourself or the way that you can do things better. And the reason why that's important is that you are going to be covering a lot of material. And in order to be able to make sense of that material and not just drown in it, you need to be able to sort through it clearly, and a notebook is a great way of making sure that you can organize your thoughts and understanding effectively. So you're probably nodding your head right now and saying, yeah, that's a really good point, I'll definitely do that, but then you don't. And that's a big mistake, because the reason is that leadership is not about learning in the sense of gaining more knowledge. You're not here to simply learn about stuff and store it in your brain and now you've memorized loads of facts about leadership, because to be honest, that's going to have no impact on your leadership capability whatsoever. So if you think that this learning course is going to transform you into a leader because you've just memorized a load of leadership theory, then you might as well stop now, because it's not going to be effective in terms of driving you forward. What is going to drive you forward is to participate in the experiential learning cycle, and that's the grey circle that you can see on the left in front of you. You need to participate in the learning by engaging with the material. What do you think it means? Why have I put that particular construct in front of you? Engage in the material and think about the deeper meanings behind it rather than just passively sitting there. And by engaging the material, you'll generate the ability to understand the key points. In other words, how are all these things connected together? What are the key points that are really making this an important thing to cover in terms of your journey of becoming a more effective leadership? Then you go to step 3. Okay, you've understood some new key points. How are they relevant to what you already know? You need to actively work your brain to connect it to the existing knowledge that you have in order to grow your overall capability. If you don't do step 3, all you're going to end up doing is having little clusters of knowledge that are completely distant from each other, and you'll be unable to unite them all together into becoming an effective leader. All you'll have without step 3 is some useful knowledge about different things that are completely unrelated, and that is never going to make you an effective leader. And then 4, you need to be able to anticipate how you can use this learning. Now that means that you have to use your imagination. If you're learning about teamwork, for example, you should be envisioning, how can I use this in my team today at work or when I'm in my day-to-day? If you're learning about power, you should be thinking, how can I use this material right now to improve my power base? How can I test it with the next person that I meet or the next challenge that I face to improve my power base? And what you need to do is you need to continuously pursue this cycle. Now, the reason why that matters is by engaging in that experiential learning cycle. In other words, by going to 1, 2, 3, and 4 repeatedly, you climb to the top of the pyramid of wisdom, which you see on the right. The pyramid of wisdom is essential for successful leadership. And the reason is because it's important to understand the basic differences between knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. They are not the same. Knowledge is about understanding what something is. It's the simplest level of building a meaningful comprehension of the object that you're engaging. So if you want to know what a car is, you might look in a book or you might see a car, and that gives you some awareness of what something is. But in order to have that deeper understanding of it, in order to understand how it actually works, you need to actually participate in car driving. You can't simply understand a car by watching it from a distance. You have to get in there and experience it for yourself. And that's the same for leadership. You might know lots of different leadership theories, but the only way you can actually understand how to be a leader is to get involved and understand the greater complexities of how all the things come together. And as you do that, as you participate in the complex situation, you'll be able to build that bigger understanding of why things happen. As a leader, you're very interested in why things happen because leadership is fundamentally about decision making. In order to make effective decisions, you need to know why things are happening around you. If you don't understand the situation, if you don't see why things are happening around you, then you can't make effective decisions because you lack the awareness that is needed to make the right decision. And so what you need to be doing as a leader is climbing the pyramid of wisdom to move from simply knowing about a situation to actually having that deeper understanding of it that enables effective decision making. And the way that you do that is by doing 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the cycle on the left. So all that talk about knowledge and understanding and wisdom might be a bit challenging. So I can summarize it in a very simple way. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but understanding is knowing how to use that tomato to create delicious dishes. But finally, wisdom is understanding that you don't put a tomato in a fruit salad. So we end the session by looking at some practical advice for the learning journey that lies ahead of you. The first is focus on what you're interested in. You're going to cover a lot of material, and realistically, you're not going to be able to absorb everything. So focus on the things that are really interesting for you and use those to enhance your leadership capability. The reason is that it's much more important for you and your leadership capability to really understand why you need to do things. For example, why you need to generate a strong sense of purpose, rather than just memorizing everything that you need to do. Memorizing the learning in those modules is not going to improve your leadership capability. What is going to improve your leadership capability is to generate that deeper insight and understanding for why you need to behave this way. And that's something that you need to do for yourself by reflecting on improving your learning. And then finally, it's important to recognize that the more time you put into this learning, the more you're going to get out of it. If you just rush through it, then you're going to get a rush learning result. And that's not going to be nearly as effective as when you take the time to understand it at your own pace, because that will generate the insight and understanding and wisdom that you need to be an effective leader.